Johanna, would you read the statement of compliance?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the Press of Atlantic City, Star-Ledger, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, the municipal website, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Please turn off all cell phones.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Johanna, please take the roll.
Mayor Collins,
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg,
I am here.
Commissioner Horn.
Here.
First item up for discussion is utility line in the easement for 7403 Monmouth Avenue.
Okay, great. So, we had a citizen who owns a home at 7403. He was about to tear down his building. This was in April. And our department had to stop him because there is a water line that runs through a side of his property. Actually, he has a raised concrete planter that's built over a portion of that line. And so I know Jimmy Galantino went, and then later on Ken Mosca and myself and Frank showed up there, not that day, but another day, to see what could be done because he wants to build a brand new home. He's a doctor, he's a dentist, Dr. Freeman. And so the question is, what can we do? It was an old street called Ash Avenue that was 18 foot wide. When they vacated it back in 1965 and another portion in 1974, they left the right to have a water line and sewer line if they were there. Now, here's the expert. The question is do we want to let him move the line at his sole cost and expense over 1 or 2 foot, which I believe we may have already given him permission to move it 1 or 2 feet. I'm not sure if they did that yet. But then the question would be, shouldn't we modify that easement? Because if he's going to build his house on a portion of the 9-foot area that affects his property, there should be consent. If he goes to sell that house, somebody's going to see that, say, hey, you're built on top of an easement. So the $64 question is, are there any other lines, if we take a foot off that easement or two, that are affected? And I asked Frank, who I know is familiar with it. Familiar with it?
Yes. And there are other properties that are in that area.
Right.
Which the easement's 18 foot wide. Okay, do we want to give up any of that easement? Absolutely not. This water main and sewer main run behind the houses between Argyle and Fredericksburg through the yards. That's the way it was done years ago. Okay, so when these properties were sold, these people thought that they owned that property, but they actually didn't. Okay. So even by law, we have to have so many feet to be able to operate equipment back there in case something goes wrong, like a water main break. The sewer is made out of terracotta pipe, which is old clay pipe, okay? And sooner or later, something will happen to it. So what do we do? You know, the thing to do is, I think, to keep that easement open. And the person that's building the house, I mean, I don't know what the city wants to give to them, but where we look at it as it's a maintenance thing. That's why we need this easement. And don't get me wrong, there are people that have sheds on it already. There's a swimming pool very close by. And if anything happens to this pipe, they're going to have to move them, you know, at their expense. And I don't know if that was told to them when they went to settlement or anything like that, but that's what it really is. So this guy wants to build this house, which is great, but to give up any of that easement, I don't think in my opinion, I don't think we should.
But it's a little bit more complicated than that. first off, the water line that was there was right on the edge of that line. In fact, it might have been even outside of the easement by half a foot. It was marked with blue lines. And he already had a concrete 1.5 foot high planter running the length of his house. He didn't build it, it's been there for years, on top of this pipe. So that when we repaired it, the city moved, where it broke, moved that line over. And so his request, if I understand it correctly, is he wanted to move it over a foot. And 18 foot wide, generally they're 10 foot, these easements. And as I understood it, Frank, the only house serviced with that water line is one behind him on a power line, and you told me this, that water service would be fine if he let him continue that movement over, as we had already done a portion of it. We did the
Right.
city a couple of years ago.
Right.
So is there an issue there or no?
No. The issue with us is,
Keep the easement,
yeah.
but give him permission to move it over a foot at his
Yeah,
cost?
oh, yeah, his costs, yeah.
I mean,
Now,
I don't
this,
know the
you
guy,
gotta
but-
understand, this house is in the middle of the block, and the water is being served to him all the way from Argyle Avenue. Because back when this house was built and everything, there still isn't a water main out in front of his house. So we had to go over to Argyle Avenue, run it halfway down the block, and then across the street into the property. And it doesn't serve his house, it serves the house behind him.
clear as mud? The issue is, do we let this fellow move it over, what, is it a foot he wanted to move over? Were you familiar with it? Or are you not familiar?
It was a foot or two, but didn't he want to build his foundation in the easement?
That's the issue. He wants to, but he already, yes, but he already has a retaining wall there.
The retaining wall can be removed.
True, although this is concrete and block and it's 1.5 feet high, so.
Just as a refresher, we adjusted our ordinance for stormwater easements about 4 years ago, that it states, it's not a stormwater easement, but to me, this is a little bit more important.
Right.
That no permanent structures are to be permitted to be constructed in any
Okay.
easement.
So,
May I add into this from the assessor's point of view, speaking for Jim, that's not here? The issue comes down to his title search when he purchased the property was not done correctly. The easement should have shown up, and that's where the fault lies.
So I'll give you my opinion. I deal with these all the time. I don't think there's harm to the city's interest or to the one person whose water is serviced by this line if we allow him to move it a foot over. Technically, arguably, a portion of that water line is outside of the easement on his property. Let's get that other part of the story there. If you look at the survey and your blue lines, where the fellows came, I guess they come with a magnometer and could trace it out, some of that water line is on his property, not in our easement. So what he's willing to do is at his sole cost, I think he's using Lafayette, right? Or wants to use Lafayette. He would move the line over this much, still plenty of room to service it. It'll be a brand new line, you have that added benefit. We'll straighten out the issue of some of that line being on his property to service the home behind him. And we get a brand new house and a brand new rateable. And he lives there, I don't know if he lives there year round, I'm not sure of that, I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with your recommendation to allow for the move into the easement. I guess the bigger question with Roger is the foundation into that and how we handle that. But I don't know that that's a discussion for today. These are two separate issues, correct?
If you allow this to be into the easement, you're going to see more people requesting the same thing. And these easements will keep shrinking down. It's hard enough for an electric company in Ken knows that for accessing the utility poles in the back, let alone water and sewer, if they got to dig down 10 feet, you need a wide area to maintain that. I see no reason why they can't push the wall of the house over 2 more feet.
And
And as these things occur, at least on the electric company side, where the electric company cannot access, say, poles, they're gonna wanna go out front to the easement out front of homes and put poles in. They've done it in Ventnor. I think Harvard Avenue was one area. They're gonna wanna put poles in, and, you know, it's not something I think we're looking to see as additional poles, especially out on the, you know, on the streets and stuff like that, but, you know, it's something that the city won't be able to control. This is something I think we have an opportunity to control, so we really have to work at it. But I think what Roger said is, I think the most poignant, have them move the house. You know, that should be a consideration. I mean, I think we have to look in the broader terms, because we might bring more onto ourselves than we really know right now.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
like I say, our water line is on his property outside of our easement. We have to deal with that aspect
Right, right.
too. And he wants to build his foundation to there where that, some of that water line is, because the water line, you can see with the blue line, it curves out and then it curves back in. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So, to me, I think we should resolve this, maybe take a closer look at it. But again, a portion of our line is on his property,
The portion, right?
and
Well,
towards the
portion-
back there, yeah.
The water line, the city does not own that water line.
The water line going from Monmouth Avenue to the man in the back, though, is the city water supply.
It's a city water supply, but
In
we
our easement.
stop at the curb, like the ordinance says.
Okay, so could he just cut this line and say, I don't want it on my property? No, I mean,
You can't interfere with the public utility.
I don't think you can either.
I know you can't.
So, I don't think this is as complicated as this seems to be becoming. To me, I think we let him move the line, I think we let him put his foundation in. His foundation, concrete structure's been over that line for the last 50 years, at least. Do you wanna do a push on this and consider it, or look at it?
I think doing a push is, you know, doing a disservice to the property owner, because I think he wants to demo it, correct?
He does want to
And by
demo.
demo, and by ordinance, he has, you know, the deadline is what, June 15th?
That's our deadline.
So I don't think we're in a position to push. I think we have to push through this, you know, for an answer that's most appropriate, you know.
Well, what question?
Yeah,
do you
so
have?
that's,
My recommendation is you let him move it over a foot.
yeah.
That's what I think. At his cost.
Yeah, and I agree with that, as much as I also agree with Roger, but that's, in my mind, the way to go too.
Yeah, and I understand the precedent it would set, but I think the fact that, as you stated, Roger, it's an 18-foot easement, and most of them are 10 feet, and if we're only pushing a little bit in,
We actually require 20 feet.
require 20.
Do we? Because all our street end easements, I know, are only 10.
We changed that ordinance 5 years ago. All new easements were to be 20 feet.
Well, look down my street in Rumson, he's certainly within that 20, I wish he wasn't. So, anyway, tell me what we want to do.
That's the direction, we want to go in. I'm agreeing with
One and done,
Scott,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So we'll move forward and let him,
Commissioner Blumberg, do you have a comment on this?
I don't.
does anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah, I think we agree with your recommendation that we should allow this
Do we?
in this.
Maureen, do you? Commissioner, you all right?
I defer to the business administrator.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've agreed that they're moving the water line. Have we agreed they're allowed to build on the easement? I just want it right for my notes.
1 foot?
Yeah.
1 foot.
1 foot into the easement. Okay, thank you.
And during construction, I'll make sure we get an as-built survey of the foundation. So, and I'll show it to Scott.
Great, thank you.
Perfect.
All right, we can move along to our engineering report.
Start at the beginning, first project on there is our citywide vision.
I've not been here in a while.
Citywide dredging permit, we're still waiting on the DEP to determine whether or not we have to do new bathymetry because the old survey data is probably 7, 8 years old. Next one, we're looking to get a permit to use Shelter Islands, the dredge hole there, to place material from the dredging. We had a JPP meeting with the Army Corps, and after that, the DEP wanted a pre-application meeting. They did not seem very receptive to the idea. So we then sent the studies that Stockton did out there regarding whether or not there's any fish or anything living in the dredge hole to the DEP and the Army Corps to basically say, take a look at this, and are you going to agree or not agree, because it's the threshold question. Why, we're not going to, if they're going to say no, then why proceed? So we'll wait to hear back from them. We had bid the 22 NJDOT state aid project. The project came in higher than what was the estimate. So we're going to revise plans and specs to put an alternate bid in for a different type of storm sewer pipe, maybe get the price down. That project will probably get out to bid this summer and for fall winter construction. The 2023 NJDO state aid project, the city received $156,980 from the DOT, and we have the survey work scheduled for June. So we figure it's the same thing. We'll probably have the project out to bid in late summer for fall winter construction. City received some money to do some bicycle lane painting on Atlantic Avenue. So we're working on that, but I don't think that we're going to be able to get a contract awarded and that done prior to the summer. So it's probably going to end up in mid-September, early October, before it gets cold out. The city authorized a road program this year, which includes Bayshore Drive, portion of Bayshore Drive from Fredericksburg to Barclay, Fremont Avenue from Fredericksburg to Clarendon, and Nassau from Monmouth to Amherst. So we have the schedule, the survey work scheduled in the beginning of June, and it's the same thing. Probably get the project out to bid late summer for fall winter construction. City wants to redevelop well 8. So basically, it'll probably start in early October. So, the Sigmund Rim, the basketball court reconstruction, we have probably the survey work scheduled for the beginning of June. That construction funding, that has not been funded for construction yet. So if there's any, it would be in a future bond to do that. Adams Avenue Storm Sewer Pump Station, I know you got some money from Ocean Wind Trust. I think right now that your grant consultant is trying to finalize the funding from FEMA on that. So I think that at some point we should, see where we're going with that, if you can get the BCA to work. Still waiting for a revised quote from the Educational Services Cooperative on the roof replacement at the library. They told us they'd have us something in 2 weeks, so hopefully we'll get something, because that project went out to bid twice, came in over budget, so you can now negotiate a price with a contractor. So,
Tremco, right?
yes. For the municipal building renovations phase 2, we're preparing plans and specs for the revised layout. So there was some revisions we're working on. We're working on a CRS update, dealing with Jim Galantino on that. It's the yearly thing. We're also preparing a flood warning and response plan. I think that helps with your CRS credits. And I know we had met with Jim on it, I guess, back in early May. Last week, yeah. Early May. We're assisting the city with some IBank application for the water meter installation. So we're reviewing what has been prepared and submitted to see what the next step to go with the DEP is, because they're being a little difficult on some of the stuff they want.
JJ, can I just interrupt you just for a second?
Yes.
Jimmy, do you want to jump in on any iBank stuff, or should we just,
Roger,
CRS, I'm sorry, the CRS stuff?
Sure, we want to talk about,
I don't know if it needs a further explanation for the newer commissioners,
Okay.
mayor, new
sure.
commissioners.
So we're trying to move to a class 4 for a 30% discount on our flood insurance. We have 3 sirens in place now. One's right here in the parking lot. They are activated. They go out through the town. They have a message that lasts about 2 minutes. It's broadcast. We try to do one once a month. Have you guys ever heard it? Okay. Maybe we can activate it.
Well, now.
Maybe we can activate it for you and show you how it works. So the Remington Vernick's working on a plan to the early warning system is so comprehensive, the plan, it needs to be worked by an engineer to determine how the system works, where the activation, how the people get off the island. You'll probably see it come through here. We'll have to memorialize it at some point with a resolution to adopt the plan. But Remington Vernick, Nick, and Braden.
Yeah.
Braden. 2 good guys are working on a plan with us. I would update you two, or all 3 of you, as a plan moves forward and how we're making out. We're having a kickoff with a FEMA designated ISO specialist in July. She's going to come down here and review the plan and determine if we can get the extra credit. We'll match Sea Isle City, which is any other town out here is a class 4. Is that good enough, Kenny?
Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy, thank you very much for that.
Better than I would have done. The next one is every year the DOT puts out a grant application to do roadways. So that's due on July 1st to the DOT. And then typically the commissioners pick what street you want to make an application to the DOT for. So we're probably looking at early first meeting in June if you can think about, picking something. Typically what you want is a street that a lot of traffic, where you either have schools, parks, libraries, that kind of stuff. Last few years we've been doing working Winchester Avenue toward Ventnor. So if you went that route, I would recommend looking at maybe Brunswick to Claremont, because that would be the next piece heading toward up to Ventnor. There are a few pending grant applications on here. I don't know if you want to go through them. I mean, nothing's really happening at the moment with any of these. Either we're waiting to find out what funding you're getting, or you may have gotten some of the funding, but there's nothing budgeted to move forward with that kind of stuff yet.
So we did update JJ. I received an email late today. We did receive the $50,000 for recreation grant for the bathrooms. So that award came today, distributed to Lisa, to Andrew. You guys got that, right? Yeah. And Johanna. So we did get that.
Okay. Basically, I'll go into the next section is on our construction projects. Mostly all of the projects we bid construction-wise have a 2-year maintenance bond requirement. So before the bond expires, we go out and do maintenance bond inspections to see if there's any issues to have the contractor come back and fix. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them this year. And the first one is going to be, there was a reconstruction we did of Thermal Avenue and Bayshore Drive West. So I know we have that was scheduled for either late this week or early next week to go and check on that one. The projects that close out, and what I could say about those for the most part are We're waiting on documentation from the contractor, and most of the documentation comes down to as-built and GIS data, because the city requires the utilities to have be GIS data now, and a lot of the contractors don't read that in the documents when they go out, and so now they're scrambling to get that information. They're doing an HVAC replacement at the library. There's 3 rooftop units, so they are scheduled to install those on the 23rd. I think I went the right one. Yes, yeah. On the municipal building interior renovations, it's my understanding that they finished the preliminary punch list. They want to do a walkthrough. They want to do a final punch list walkthrough tomorrow, but we didn't want to do that until Ed got back from Nashville, which will probably occur next week. And I think that there's still some outstanding items, but they weren't in the original scope, so we're waiting to get some costs from the contractor. The 2021 road program, we're just waiting on closeout documents from the contractor. I think the punch list was completed. The water meter replacement program, that kind of ties back into that iBank thing. So until we get that straightened out, can't move forward with, I guess, the installation of those water meters. The tennis courts, all the work's basically complete. They're just completing the punch list. And I believe everybody's using the courts as it is right now, so in operation. They're replacing a batting cage at the rec facility. And I guess there's some materials. I think it's really some of the mesh that they're still waiting for that. There also was plans for building a wall of fame up at the rec center, and it ended up when we went out to bid, it came in too high. So the thought was we've got a contractor who's doing the road program, Ferriazzi, who's a concrete contractor, to install the footing. And then it was my understanding that the city would talk to, like, the union apprentices or whatever, to see if they could get volunteers to finish the block wall and brick facade on it. The 22 road program, that construction's substantially complete, and we're working on preparing that punch list. In this building, well, really the firehouse, they were putting there's flood barriers that have to be installed to satisfy some FEMA. Yes. Yes.
They came into the permit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, apparently the contractor came to the building department for a building permit today to do the work, but they're still. Whatever the materials are really, it's a 120-day lead time for the barriers. So I don't expect to be seeing any really work on that for a couple of months. Let me make sure that's. Yep. Last one on my list. So.
All right.
Any questions?
Thank you, JJ.
Okay. Well.
We will now move to department head reports. Scott, would you like to start?
Well, everything went well with the election. No disputes. Our city clerk was able to administer the election. We didn't have a problem, so we're here. I've now certified it. I have, as my duty as city solicitor, to sign off, which I've done. So it's welcome to the next 4 years. As far as that, there are some lawsuits we have, which I generally don't discuss any details of those because you really don't want to get anything out there that gets misconstrued or misunderstood. The one that's most prominent was our lawsuit regarding Mathis Construction, who we are suing as well, which had affected a number of homes on Amherst and the area between Douglas and Delavan, mostly Delavan and Claremont. And that is winding its very slow way through the courts. They did go to mediation. There was an offer of settlement to pay a substantial amount of money, which was rejected by the primary homeowner who has suffered damage. And so they're still proceeding with their discovery. But as I say, we have a claim against both the contractor and Travelers, who was the insurance company that insured the contractor. So as any progress, I will let you all, three of you know, and of course, let everybody know. That's basically all I have for now. I did want to comment on one thing, on the dredging, which is a project we've put a tremendous amount of effort in, and we are very close to getting a dredging permit, which will be citywide. I actually have had 3 separate people ask me in the last week, what's the status of dredging, because they want to maybe dredge their own properties, which they'll be allowed to do at their own expense. They can latch on to our citywide project permit and do, if they want, they could do their own at their cost, which is a big thing. And I always ask Ed Dennis when he's here, right, Ed, can we confirm that again? But he said it to me many times, and I believe him. So we're going to get that. And if we ever get the separate dredge hole, that's a whole interesting history and story. I don't know if you want me to go into that at all, but these are the kind of things you got to get somewhat familiar with. We, as a city, own half of Shelter Island, which is in Ventnor. We have an agreement with Ventnor to put our material there. If that happens, we would save a very significant amount of money, because it's a 28-foot hole. It's about 4 acres wide. And they're already filling one hole in off of Vagabonds in Atlantic City. When we first started this process, state said absolutely not. But then the Army Corps pushed it for Barnegat Bay, and they got one there. And then they started to look favorably at ours. And I think we're going to get that permit, which would be a great thing. So
Great. Thanks, Scott. Frank?
We have the Parkway fountains on. We got them on this week, really actually before last weekend. And we planted the Parkway flowers, the public property flowers, the hanging flowers on Ventnor Avenue, streetscapes are up. On Mansfield Avenue, for the past couple of weeks, we've had a water problem. And the problem was that there was a broken valve and a fire hydrant at Atlantic and Mansfield broke, and we couldn't control it. So we had to have a company come in and called Cutter Drill and Machine Incorporated, and they inserted a valve at Mansfield and Atlantic, which we were able to shut the water main down and replace the fire hydrant. We also had on Mansfield Avenue in Ventnor another water leak that ran through the Parkway mound to a house, which was very strange, but we were able to fix that. On the beach, we have the beach mats down. Monday, we're going to start with putting the cans and the recycling cans down. At the end of last summer, we removed all the beach chairs that were on the bulkheads and stuff. Okay, and this week, the piles of beach chairs are starting to appear again, especially on Pembroke Avenue.
Frank, a reminder is going to be sent out about that in the May newsletter from the city, and again, we'll just stay on top of it.
Yeah,
as we move
we
forward.
didn't touch nothing, so hopefully they get the point. We're going to have a beach cleanup next week with Lenape High School. They have about 50 kids coming, and they will clean our beaches. We are going to be putting porta potties down at Madison, Quincy, and Brunswick, and one at Lucy the Elephant. We replaced the water heater at beach headquarters and the pavilion and the Washington Avenue Pier. We're getting ready to power wash and scrub the wood. And happy Memorial Day.
Great, thank you. Jim?
Well, congratulations, Mike, Kathy, and Maury. Welcome to the commission meeting. Rentals are up. We had about 300 so far this week, this month alone. A lot of late minute. People are coming. I don't know where they all came from, but just real quick, I did a rental inspection on a high rise, and it still had shag carpet and shiny green velvet wallpaper with the matching yellow tub and sink. And it's just, I call it the retro rental. I mean, it's got to be 40 years old. So I don't, 50? So, So real quick to bring it up, June 15th is the moratorium for all demos and pools. No demolitions of houses can take place till June 15th, September 15th. No construction of pools at all. That means no bladder bags, no pipes in the street, nothing. Zip. So if we get a complaint, you see it on the street, we need to shut it down. Matt, if you could help me, please, on the weekends, if you see a pool construction. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
So Jim, just to clarify, is that, so if somebody's in the middle of, towards the end of the construction of the pool, that date, they have to stop, and then they would be able to continue after the season?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry. They should have better job of planning.
Just to dovetail off of what Jim said, because I was talking about it today, is another reminder that on June 15th also, the construction hours, they change also from 7:30 to 5, Saturdays 8 to 4. Again, like we ran into last year,
Right.
that we're going to enforce it strictly at 5 o'clock. It doesn't mean, a lot of times contractors will go, well, I need another half hour to finish up. The only way they kind of got it last year is if we drew the hard line in the sand, 5 o'clock means 5 o'clock. So we'll work with John Vada.
Thank you.
Any violations will forward to him.
There's a misnomer out there about pile driving. You can pile drive in the summer, but not on Saturdays. Is that the way I read it?
Yes.
Yeah. So in case you get a call that my house is shaking during the week, it's permitted. Not the shaking, but the pile driving.
Thank you. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Welcome aboard. Tag into Shelter Island, Scott failed to mention that we own the bottom half of Shelter Island. So we get to use it first. So just want to be clear on that. And also in regard to dredging, the dredge hole that Scott talked about off of the Atlantic City that's what's going to be named in our permit. We have to have a location cited for the permit for material, and that's our primary disposal site. Shelter Island will be hopefully our secondary disposal site if we can permit it. So on tonight, there are two resolutions in participation of cooperative pricing for both electricity and gas. We do this every year through Atlantic County. In turn, they have a co-op through Cape May County. Last year, the electric prices were higher through the co-op, so we just paid directly through Atlantic City Electric. This year, hopefully, we have a different result. So in regard to Planning Board, we had our April 28th Planning Board case was canceled a couple days early due to a lack of a quorum. So we're moving all those cases to May 25th, which is next week. Some of those cases I was able to talk with the applicants and bump those to June 8th. We're going to have a special meeting on June 8th to handle the overflow from May. But we're still going to have 10 cases scheduled for May meeting. I think it's doable. We've done it before. It's gone to 11 o'clock, but I think it's prudent to the applicants and fairness to the applicants that we try to hear them as soon as possible. The June 29th meeting will be canceled, so that's why the June 8th meeting, we're trying to combine that with everything. And then we'll be back on schedule in July with our regular planning board meetings, but things are slowing down a little bit, but not much. And that concludes my report at this time.
Thanks, Roger.
You're welcome.
Chief Hankinson?
Mayor, Commissioners, just a few announcements from my end. First thing, I want to remind everybody that starting on Friday, May 26th through Monday, September 4th, Park Mobile paid parking will be reinstituted along Amherst Avenue from Adams Avenue to Coolidge. Again, the prices will stay the same as last year at $1 per hour up to 24 hours. Along those same lines, starting next Friday, all dumpsters are to be removed off the street. They can be placed on properties. That again goes until Labor Day Monday, September 4th. Again, we have been going around to all the contractors already, reminding them that the dumpsters have to be off. It's usually been almost pretty seamless the last few years since we instituted it, but we will work with them, and we can always have a tow company that we work with that can remove a dumpster if we really needed to. Also, you're going to start noticing that the beach block parking signs will be going up starting Memorial Day weekend with no parking on the beach blocks. They'll start being installed on Friday also in preparation for Memorial Day weekend. So again, all those things are starting to come forth as we get close to Memorial Day. Also a reminder, as it's come up a little bit, that dogs are not permitted on the beach. We will be stepping up enforcement on the beach in the mornings. especially, just a reminder to anybody with a dog, we try to hand out warnings, but sometimes warnings fall on deaf ears, and there can be a fine per the city ordinance up to $100. So it's something we do. Sometimes we chase our own tail with the dogs on the beach, but we work very hard. We work very hard to keep them off the beach. And just one last announcement is something good for the police department, but we're going to be partnering with the Hero campaign. We have one of our patrol vehicles going out to be wrapped with all the Hero campaign insignias. Anybody who's not familiar with the Hero campaign, was started. John Elliott, he was an ensign in the Navy. In July of 2000, he was killed by a drunk driver. There's going to be a big kickoff at Frank S. Farley next Friday that I'll be attending, and that's where there's 12 other police departments that are having vehicle wraps. We'll be one of those 12 police departments, the unveiling for Memorial Day weekend, so you'll see that car out on the road enforcing driving under the influence. So it's a really good thing. It's a great campaign. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ken?
Thanks, Mayor. The one resolution I want to bring to your attention, as I'm sure you've seen, is the award of the contract for IT services with Ocean Computer. It's a 7-month contract. However, we can terminate the contract prior to 7 months as we continue to evaluate our IT needs as an employee moves from city employment that has been doing that for many years. So for now, we're going to contract with Ocean Computer. The recommendations we received from Northfield and Atlantic City were outstanding, so they're close by. Chief Hankinson was kind enough to sit in with Fred and I when interviewing a couple of the companies, because we wanted the police department to have a comfort level because of your needs and things like that as we get into the busy season. So we're very comfortable with the direction we're going. However, it's something we want to continue to evaluate. As I said, it's a 7-month contract, but if certain things changes and we decide to move in a different direction, we have that flexibility. Just for further clarification, Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong, the beach chairs that are down there and they're being connected to the bulkheads, we're removing them. I mean, there's safety issues there. I mean, last year, I know we removed quite a few. They started to rust. They became a danger area where kids were playing, so really
Correct.
we need to keep that area.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it, I believe, earlier this year, Frank, and I think you removed a number of beach chairs and everything along the bulkheads. And again, we saw how unsightly it becomes as the season progresses, so we have to stay on top of it.
And it's a message we have to continue to educate the public on, through the newsletter and things like that. We really need to educate everybody so, our ordinance is clear. Lastly, Mayor, I'll be scheduling meetings with each of you just to kind of, bring up to speed on some things. And so I'll be reaching out to all three of you and scheduling meetings. That's all I have. Thanks.
Great, thank you. We appreciate that. Lisa?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things to point out. As you know, the budget was adopted last year and everything was sent up to the state. And within a week or so, they will forward us a certified copy of the budget, which will be uploaded to the website. And I have the majority of the budget entered. I just have some entries to make it current, and then I'll provide each of the commissioners a budget status report as of probably June 1st. I think for your consideration, tonight is a resolution including a bill list of just over $2.5 million. I wanted to point out that the majority of those items are comprised of the three payments. One is our quarterly user fee to the ACUA for our wastewater. Our monthly school board payment, that's about $870,000. And also we have a debt service payment, our final debt service payment on a 2013 bond issue, and that's due June 1st. For further clarification, in JJ's engineering report, I just wanted to mention, you see, I'm sure some things are unfamiliar to you at this point, so without belaboring too much, but I wanted to speak about the iBank and the water meter project, just so you know that Public Works a few years ago had requested during our capital planning the replacement of the water meters throughout the city. and all told, it's approximately $3 million. We received $613,000 in a grant to assist in the funding coming from the Coronavirus Fiscal Recovery Act. And then we also had about $400,000 in our water meter trust that we're using. The remainder of the project that is unfunded, our grant consultant, Jim Rutala, made application to the iBank through the state. And they have a program whereby you can receive up to 50% loan forgiveness. The deadline for the current year's application was April 30th. Everything was filed, but there was a lot of back and forth information. Getting approved for this funding, you have to, go through a lot of hurdles, jump over a lot of hurdles, and there's a lot of information that needs to be provided from our engineer and Public Works and various people, which was done. But the reason that we didn't make the April 30th deadline is they're requiring an engineering study and an engineering recommendation that what we want to do and plan on doing is actually the best and will work for this project. So that is being worked on. Once that is done, we have to apply for next year's funding. Hopefully they will still have the same loan forgiveness. I had mentioned several months back, can we still proceed with purchasing the meters that we have the funding for, so we're not holding up Public Works and delaying the project? And I believe that we can do that as long as in the engineer's recommendation it is to proceed with the contractor that assisted us with phase one and go and use as we had planned. So hopefully the study will be completed soon and sent up, and then we could proceed with purchasing these meters, okay? So that's it in a nutshell. I'm sure you'll have more questions, just let me know. And that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone, excuse me, that beach tags remain on sale at the Martin Bloom Pavilion. Tags remain at $10 till the end of May. June 1st, they will go up to $20. I'm sure we'll have a busy weekend the next 2 weekends. And just, I mentioned last meeting, at this point, our beach tag sales are up for this year, so I'm sure it's going to be a busier summer, which is hard to believe. Our summer programs are filling up. Our rec camp for ages 7 to 12 is filled. Our age 4 to 6-year-old camp only has a couple of spots left, so I expect that to be filled by the end of the weekend. Our rec staff has been making preparations for Memorial Day weekend at our various locations around town: pickleball, tennis, the ball fields, and down at the beach. And finally, I just wanted to announce that we will have our beach transport service available over Memorial Day weekend for those that need that service. So they can call the number, which I don't have on me right now, but in years past, we haven't been able to get staff. Lifeguards haven't been able to get staff to do that, but we will have staff for next weekend for beach transport on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And that's my report.
Thank you. Chief Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. Just currently, I want to thank Jim Galantino and the building department. They provided us with addresses, and we're currently using 2 houses that are under demolition, that are going to be demolished for fire department training. It really gives us and enables us a realistic environment to train and prepare our firefighters. And with the 2 firefighter recruits that we're working with right now, it enables us to do a lot more than we could do without having the full house prop, so to speak. With that, we're about halfway through the Firefighter 1 program with the 1 recruit. They're both going to come offline around the same time to be ready to go full duty and full service for us come July 1st. So that's going to really help us out and enable us to be ready for the summer. The beach patrol, I've met with Chief Smallwood. I speak to him on a daily basis. He's preparing the equipment for the 2023 summer season. So the beach is set forth, and thank you to Public Works for assisting them with some of the preps that they have to do on a yearly basis with getting the buildings and different things together. Lastly, we have the Wednesday, June 28th, I know we mentioned it last meeting, and I'll keep mentioning it every meeting, is the fire department open house at the Margate Library. It's a great event, it's a fun event, and everybody has a great time. So I'll mention it every meeting to make sure we get that out there. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Johanna?
I'd like to remind everyone, the rabies clinic is this Saturday at Station 1 here at 1 South Washington from 10 a.m. till noon. And the rabies shots are free, but you must have a valid dog license, which we will also be selling there. On June 6th, we will be holding primary elections, and once again, District 3 and District 4 will be voting over at the Thai School. And that's it.
All right, thank you. I just want to say before public comment that we appreciate all that you do and look forward to the next 4 years of working with all of you. All right, I'd now like to open up public comment. Any comment of items discussed in this meeting? Is there a motion to close public comment?
Motion.
I will second.
Mayor Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Horn.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'd like to,
Mike, before we close, I have a couple of things. Question for Frank. The house, when we relocate the water line, or when the water line is relocated, how long is the house that's impacted going to be without water? And who's going to make sure that he's not without water for a month? How is that coordinated?
I believe that it would take less than an hour.
Oh, okay, so the
Yeah.
line will be relocated, the portion of the line that needs to be, and then you guys will do the cut-in, or who does?
No, they could do the cut-in and the connections, but they could lay the line, like you said, and then they could do the connections, would only take less than an hour.
So we should only be out for a little bit.
Yeah, short period of time.
Good. I want to thank Johanna and the clerk's office for a great job running the election. I thought it went really fantastic, smooth. I've been involved. That was my 5th one, and very, very, very few complaints or issues that I hear. So thanks, Johanna. I also have one other thank you, and that goes out to Jim, Johanna, Roger, and their teams. We have a new restaurant opening today on Amherst Avenue. It's called Betty's Seafood Shack. It's a great addition to the Amherst Avenue restaurants, and so I want to wish them good luck. I want to read the owner posted, so I want to read a brief. I want to run brief comments from his post with exclamation points. He writes, "Margate is pro-business. We are open to the public Thursday. Margate employees in the building department and the city's clerk's office were so helpful along our entire path, from construction to receiving our mercantile license. Special thanks to Jim Galantino and his entire team in the building department. They were always available and responsive to our questions and concerns the entire way." So thank you for that. Great job. That's all I have.
all right. Is there a motion to adjourn? Yes, this is our workshop meeting.
Motion.
I will second.
Mayor Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg,
Yes?
Commissioner Horn.
Yes.
Thank you.